we're back. No more rest days on this year's Tour de France. Nothing but racing from now until the Champs-Élysées on Sunday. Starting today with stage 16, and it's all downhill. That is to say, it's all downhill once it's been monstrously uphill. The finish is here in Bourg Saint-Maurice, which the skiers among you might know as the base for holidays in Les Arcs. But it's not St Maurice the riders have to worry about today, it's St Bernard. They only come down here to Saint-Maurice after they've been over two giant mountain passes. The Col du Grand Saint Bernard, which is the highest point in the whole race this year at nearly 2.5 kilometres above sea level. And then the Col du Petit Saint Bernard, which is petit only in comparison to its relative, still over 2,000 metres. So plenty of climbing on the Tour's second day in the Alps, and we know from the first day what climbing can do to the standings. Right, let's take a look at what's in store today. Under 1,000 kilometres left to race in this year's Tour. Just under 160 today on their second day in the Alps, which, as I mentioned, takes them over two giant Alps and through 3 different countries. The Col du Grand Saint Bernard is the Tour's highest point at 2,473 metres. Once the riders are over that, they're in Switzerland and heading for the climb of its not much smaller brother, the Col du Petit Saint Bernard. That summit marks the border between Switzerland and Italy, and then there's one of the longest, fastest and most technical descents in the race to take the riders back into France and to the finish at Bourg Saint-Maurice. Back in black socks today, Bradley, for those of you who want to reproduce the look exactly for your evening ride. Although you'd be hard-pressed to reproduce the setting, the most spectacular scenery so far of a Tour that hasn't exactly been short of it. Now, the road started to rise pretty shortly after the off this morning, and Mark Cavendish started to slip back to find his way into the day's autobus to chug to the finish inside the time limit. A large break of 21 riders got away, and in there both the main contenders for the King of the Mountains competition. Franco Pellizotti in the polka dot jersey and Egoin Martinez, who started the day 8 points behind him in second place, both got away off the front of that group, along with Vladimir Karpets. Karpets being the best placed man in the break overall, 5 minutes 56 behind the race leader. Martinez couldn't stand the pace for long though, and as we pick up commentary towards the top of the Col du Grand Saint Bernard, Karpets and Pellizotti are out front on their own. The remains of the breakaway is about 1 minute 25 behind them, with the group containing the yellow jersey and all the big names at 2 minutes.
Almost at the top of the climb, Norwegian flags, the Breton flag of France on the right there. As they go up through the crowd here, the USA flag is flying on the horizon as well. And that's going to fly for Bradley Wiggins, I suppose, an American team, and he's sitting 3rd overall in the Tour de France, and so far he hasn't made any mistakes. He's still comfortably around the whereabouts of Alberto Contador and Lance Armstrong, the 2 riders ahead of him overall. These boys coming up to the top of this huge climb today. But by the time they get up there, they've done only 40 kilometres of the 160.
Well, there was a new flag that we haven't seen in the recent past on the Tour de France, Phil, the Japanese flag at the side of the road, because, of course, the 2 Japanese riders in this race are still firmly in this race. In fact, Beppu Fumiyuka finished in 57th place on the climb up to Verbier the other day.
He's still in the peloton, but Arishiro, he's been dropped from the main peloton just now. He went back about 5 kilometres from the summit. He should get back with a bit of luck on the way down. We're plunging into Italy now, and we'll stay in there for a while, and we'll climb out of it on the Col du Petit Saint Bernard, which I think is a harder climb than this one, but this one's got the higher rating category. There's the face of Jens Voigt here as he pushes on.
Well, Jens Voigt is trying to drag this group over the top just in front of the main field, but I can tell you, Jens, the main field led by Astana are probably only 45 seconds behind this group. But Jens, he's got in the back of his mind that little plan. He wants to be off the front of the race when we get to the final climb of the day, the Petit Saint Bernard, because they are going to try something, I think, Team Saxo Bank with Frank and Andy Schleck.
Well, I don't think Karpets will spoil the party at the top here, because he's not challenging for the King of the Mountains. I think he'll allow maximum points of 20. to go to Pelazzotti, who looks a little bit tired just now as he kicks up for the final meters.
Well, I'm not surprised at all as they come up to the summit, but I think Pelazzotti will get himself maximum points just around the corner there. He's just looking back to see if there's going to be any reaction. There's no reaction for Carpet, so another 20 points in the bag for this man, Franco Pelazzotti.
Yes, that was honourable by Carpet there. He may as well let this climb it, and it was Pelazzotti's attack that got him away from the group. So job well done so far for Franco Pelazzotti today. And Carpet, you need to get together now. Here comes Jens Voigt trying to keep them away from the Armstrong-Contador group in the hope that they will pull away on the descent. Pirik Fedrigo is also here, the rider that won the other day down in Tarbes. Not the other day, it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, seems like a long time ago. A lot of teams starting to get interested in that Frenchman, including Team Saxo Bank, because they're impressed by the way that he's got the power to go into these breakaways on numerous occasions. From the front to the back for David Moncoutier, there, number 121. He was in that breakaway a little while back. He was dropped from the breakaway, which is a surprise to me, and now he's been picked up by the main field.
He also picked up Maxime Bouet then as well. He's also dropped from this lead group and back into the pack. Voigt is heading up for the sprint.
And watch out for the sprint here as well, because Pirik Fedrigo, Phil, is also well up in the overall classifications in the King of the Mountains, and as we speak, there he goes.
To be expected as he goes for third place over the top of the climb. Nice piece of riding that by Fedrigo. He's having a very good tour.
Third place there was a rider from Euskaltel Euskadi. I wonder if it was Egoy Martinez, but there are 3 riders in there.
But just ahead of Fedrigo.
Yeah, there are 3 riders in there, in fact, but Fedrigo did get himself to third place.
It's third place for Fedrigo, and Egoy Martinez, I'm sure, went to try and pick up best of the rest there, because he's just about holding Pelazzotti in his sights. Look at this, the Astana army stomping through the Alps here. On the far right of our picture there is also Bradley Wiggins, riding very, very well with a teammate, and I think it's probably Van der Velde alongside him. Davy Miller's also in the group, so he's ridden well today, inspired perhaps by a high place overall of Bradley Wiggins. The whole of France is talking about the British rider right now, of how he's improved so much this year. So as we're over the top of the Grand Saint-Bernard, the Astana boys are still in control as they now begin the descent.
Plenty of holiday homes in the Italian Alps, including the Pope's, shaped like a mitre so that God can recognise it. And Benedict has recognised the passage of the race today with a benediction, which was couched in the usual language, but basically wished the lads all the best. Now, the race also took in the small town of Arvière, birthplace of Maurice Garin, the Italian-born, naturalised French winner of the very first Tour de France in 1903. Disqualified, of course, in 1904 for taking the train. Now, enough sightseeing and history. The 2 leaders, Pelazzotti and Carpets, have been reabsorbed back into the original breakaway group. And behind them, the yellow jersey group has 7 kilometres left to climb to the top of the Col de Petit Bernard.
We are absolutely flying up the slopes here of the Col du Petit Saint-Bernard. The riders are riding tempo from Saxo Bank. There's only 1 left on the front now, and this is Chris Anker Sorensen. There's a couple of Astana left, but their strong men are here. Armstrong is here, Cloden, and of course Contador. But the others are waiting. This has become such a select group, but nobody can lift the pace and attack.
Well, when you get your heart rate up to the 180s, you know you're doing some serious work, and you know you might be able to hold it for 4 or 5 minutes, and that's exactly what Chris Anker Sorensen is doing. There's another move coming here from Jürgen van den Broek, going off the front end of the pack, and immediately Pelazzotti jumps across again, and he now sees this as a good moment to go away from the group, and that's why this man who finished 3rd overall in the Giro d'Italia this year has decided this may well be the time to put the hammer down. Pelazzotti starting to realise there's a big possibility here of getting himself not only more points at the top, but also a staged victory, because the group behind, although it's being led savagely by Team Saxo Bank, is not eating into the advantage of this small breakaway.
These 2 riders, I think, have stretched the elastic, and Jürgen van den Broek is looking exceptional.
He is phenomenal, and I think we may well be looking at the next Belgian stage race star, because as I just said, Phil, he was 7th overall in the Giro last year. He is a great climber. This could be the ideal thing for Team Silence Lotto to actually raise their morale. On the front end, you can see, you can almost feel the pain by looking at Chris Anker Sorensen there. This is the move now coming from Gomez Marchante, the rider from Cervelo Test Team in the leading group. He's seen how dangerous this move is with Armel Moinard coming across.
Slow down, I can't get on.
Yeah.
But he's got on now, and they're going to work together, go across the gap together. It's do or die, these efforts now, because if those two boys, the two best climbers in the group, do get away, it's curtains for the stage as well as the climb at the top. Van den Broek, Paul, he's 26 years of age, but he's never won a race, you know. 7th in the Giro is a great result.
It certainly is, but do you remember
good tonight?
You remember the team that first picked him up though as a professional? It was Dirk de Mol, and they was brought into US Postal Service, and they found some pretty good riders over the past, including a certain Tom Bonan as well.
All moved on. He stayed 3 years with the American setup, then he came across to the current team he's with, which is now called Silence Lotto. It used to be called Predictor Lotto. There it goes. This is what we expected. It had to come. He's seen his teammates do it. Now the pace is going to lift. Andy Schleck is on the offensive. Nibali is on behind him. Now, what's the answer? They've split the peloton.
They've split the peloton. Frank Schleck is there in 3rd position. Alberto Contador is there, and so too is Andreas Kloden.
Wiggins has gone with him.
Lance Armstrong is missing.
Well, he's going to defend. Maybe he's just couldn't lift his pace just at that moment, but now Andy's looking at the damage done. Bradley Wiggins has ridden across this gap. He doesn't look under pressure at all at the back.
Frank coming up there to take over the pacemaking at the front end of that group as well. There's a lot of riders still fighting in this breakaway, and all of a sudden with that acceleration, Phil, it's see what it's done to the main field.
Well, it's every man for himself now. These boys have just been blown away by a tornado. There is Lance Armstrong there, right to the front. He's riding on the back wheel of the other Luxembourger, Kim Kirken. But he knows the yellow jersey has gone forward. Lance is not going to lift the pace. The yellow jersey in the right place. He's marking Andy Schleck. I'm amazed at Bradley Wiggins. He's looking. It's not. Is it Bradley Wiggins?
Yep. It is Wiggins.
He changed his face, and I can't recognise him anymore.
Well,
he's right there.
You recognise him with the orange sunglasses on. Frank Schleck now has taken over the pacemaking. He wants to dish out the pain. They want to try and isolate Alberto Contador. Contador still has a teammate in this group, and it's the man they rested during the course of the day today, Andreas Kloden. Don't forget, Kloden has finished 2nd overall in this race. They've got rid of Lance Armstrong, the race referee there, trying to get the gap away from the motorbikes.
I'm not surprised. Now the Schlecks are dishing out the old 1-2. It's Frank at the front at the moment, looking to see where Andy is. They'll try and refresh, and this is Cadell Evans here. The move has gone. I would say, looking at this, Cadell is not on a good day again. He's trapped in the 2nd of the best groups here with Lance Armstrong. Now Andy Schleck has had to take up the pacemaking himself. Nibali is doing nothing about it. I'm not surprised that Frank Schleck is shouting at his brother there, or saying something to him.
Well, Frank Schleck and they're side by side now. A little bit of a chat going on between the two brothers, and they will continue to throw caution to the wind here. They've got the gap they want over all of the other contenders. Well, there is number 1, and he's missed the acceleration too, because this is Carlos Sastre. Now Andy Schleck going again. Bang, bang, bang. He keeps throwing it at these riders. He's trying to dislodge Alberto Contador. Contador on the defensive. He is not opening up the gaps at all, as we can see now. He looks over his shoulder. He can see he hasn't unlodged anyone at all from this group.
Well, that's the big thing, isn't it, Paul? Armstrong could be losing his 2nd overall to Bradley Wiggins here. Wiggins doesn't look like a man in trouble at all.
He's not in any difficulty at all. He's covered every acceleration. You do notice, though, that Andreas Kloden is there. Kloden could also be moving up into 3rd place overall tonight. Armstrong has lost himself around about 32 seconds at this point. He's probably not too concerned. He's going to allow all the other riders in this group to do the pacemaking.
So Lance Armstrong in difficulty now on the climb of the Col du Petit Saint-Bernard, but up front now the yellow jersey is under attack by the white jersey of Andy Schleck. We've got 3 riders up front. We're 34 kilometres, 21 miles from the finish. Now he's waited until he saw the chance, and Lance Armstrong is countering the move of his team. He's trying to reach him with a sprint up the mountain.
Well, he waited to see what the position was of all the other riders in that group.
Well, Lance Armstrong has countered the move as we cut away here up to the situation as that is Kim Kirken trying to reach Armstrong. They are trying to cross the gap now to the yellow jersey group of Alberto Contador. These are the groups that Armstrong and Kirken are trying to reach, and it's Andy Schleck doing the work.
Coming across there, this is Christian van der Velde coming across the gap to Lance Armstrong. But he tries to go past Kirken, who can't hold the wheel of Armstrong.
Well, that's a nice reaction, I must say, from Christian as he just gets across there. The rider reaching there is Rigoberto Urán, who is a very good climber. A bit surprised to see him, but he's come up and he's hung on to Christian. The two Americans here in tandem now, trying to reach the group up front. This will be a terrific support too for Bradley Wiggins if Van der Velde can get there.
Voigt now has been picked up by Andy Schleck's group, and he's going to try and bury himself. Even if it's only for 500 metres, it gives some respite to his leader there. And there you can see Contador out of the saddle, dancing away, keeping an eye on the rider from Luxembourg just in front of him.
He knows that Armstrong is coming. He keeps looking over his shoulder to see, is he close enough? He won't attack the yellow jersey. Armstrong might well join here.
Frank Schleck had gone from that group. He'd been caught out by the acceleration of his own brother. He was going backwards very shortly. Lance Armstrong is going to catch Frank Schleck and go by him.
6 riders are left in this very select in-house fight here for the leadership of the Tour de France. And I know there are riders ahead, but this is the race right here. 2 minutes and 8 seconds now.
This is Lance Armstrong. He's dislodged the climber from Colombia, Urán, and he's dislodged Christian Van der Velde. He's gone straight by Frank Schleck. Goodbye, Frank. You're not having this back wheel. You may well be a young bike rider, but look at this.
Lance Armstrong is countering the move now as he continues to fleetfrog the groups here. He's getting very, very close. He's got rid of Christian Van der Velde. He's passed Frank Schleck, and he's headed up now to the yellow jersey of Contador.
We expected him to go better on these long mountain stages. What he's looking for is that yellow car in front, because that yellow car, Phil, is the neutral service vehicle behind Andy Schleck, behind Alberto Contador, and that is what his goal is here this afternoon. He's looking for them.
And he's getting them.
Well, just round the corner, Alberto Contador probably knows that his teammate Lance Armstrong is coming across the gap. The race referee has pulled them out of the gap there. Frank Schleck has recovered a fraction here. Armstrong is doing a phenomenal ride here this afternoon. He's going to go straight by Jens Voigt, and very shortly he'll be back onto the group of Bradley Wiggins. Wiggins now has decided to set the tempo at the front end of this field, but Armstrong is almost back. He's grappling the last few metres to get himself into this leading elite group of professional bike riders at the Tour de France 2009.
Well, Johan Bernil just told Lance Armstrong, he's just told Contador that Lance is coming. Contador looked over his shoulder and Lance has arrived, and the big stare there from Andy Schleck. He must be surprised to see Armstrong here.
So just coming across here, Moinard now makes it 4 men at the front. Now it's still a fair way to go, about 1.1 kilometres to the summit of this climb. 2 minutes behind them is the group of the yellow jersey, and Jürgen van den Broek here is doing all of the pacemaking ahead of the man who leads the King of the Mountains classification, Franco Pellizotti, who is making a great operation here this afternoon.
So there are 4 riders up front, but this is where the battle for the Tour is, and they're riding at about 2 minutes and 17, 2 minutes 20 seconds back.
Well, we're going to be treated to a daredevil descent on the other side of this mountain. Jens Voigt, I wonder sometimes where he gets it from, because he was in the breakaway, he got dropped by this group, and he's fought his way back up because he knows his teammates need him. He knows he needs to keep setting the pace for as long as possible. Nobody is going to put Alberto Contador under pressure today, but they certainly will come back and do it again tomorrow.
The slopes now of the Petit Grand Bernard being enacted here. Jürgen van der Broek is up front with Astolosa, Pellizotti, Moignard. They're all together. They're racing for the point at the top of the climb here. 31.3 kilometres to go as they're coming up towards the summit now. And there it is. Well, Pellizotti wants the 30 points for a maximum of 50. But Astolosa wants to beat him and stop him taking all those points, but that's not going to happen. That's been a great day out, hasn't it, for Franco Pellizotti. He's won both mountains today. He puts 50 points in the bank. Tremendous climbing.
Well, he predicted this, but to do what you've predicted at the start of a day is not necessarily an easy thing to do. He's had a great day out, and now he's got to try and figure out, can he get himself a stage victory? You might remember he had to settle for second place on the stage that came out of the Pyrenees and on the road into Tarbes. He could think about getting a win this afternoon.
Well, this is Sastre coming back, and I think he's very lucky the pressure has gone off at the front end, because there's no reason for Armstrong, Claude and Contador to ride. So if the attacks have stopped, that pace will slow.
Dave Zabriskie coming back as well. That's a pretty impressive ride by him. We always knew he could climb well. He's a great individual time trialist, but he's about to rejoin the lead pack. Wiggins accelerating to go over the top of the climb in first position. They haven't put him under difficulty today either, and
I
they
don't
need
think
to.
he's been hardly out of breath. He's looked so impressive on these two climbs, and he looks very impressive as we look at the face of Bradley Wiggins now. 30 kilometres for the leaders. These boys about 31.5 from the finish. But once they tip over the top, it is literally all downhill. There'll be no more attacks today. It's goodbye to Italy. It's welcome back to the Tour de France in France.
It's also take care and attention on the descent, Phil, because it is a very tricky descent, and I don't think any of these riders want to take too many risks. Andy Schleck comes forward once again to get himself possibly a few points in the King of the Mountains classification. 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
He got a drink as well. Well taken by the boys. They snatched a couple of bottles. All right, the chase is still on for who wins the day. But I would say Bradley Wiggins is the star right now. He's holding his third place overall. No more mountains left today.
The main field is over the final summit of the day now, and onto the descent of the Col du Petit Saint-Bernard. We said it was long, fast and technical. It turned out to be dangerous too.
Yeah, Jens Voigt has crashed. I just heard on race radio, looking back there's a very nasty crash at the front end. There he is. That's Voigt in the middle of the road there. He went down and it was actually sitting at the back. Ooh, that's nasty.
Well, I don't know what happened there, but that was a very nasty crash by Jens Voigt. Let's hope he is okay. The car is there, the doctors will be there straight away. Now that has just happened on the descent, which has just started, as our cameras go down to catch up with the leaders. Now he was with that group, had done a lot of work, in fact, just before the top of the climb.
And hope was all we could do, really, because the camera bikes were chasing the two four-man brakes and the yellow jersey group down the mountain at high speed. So while we waited for a medical bulletin, the race to Bourg Saint-Maurice went on.
We are watching the high-speed descent here now, away from the Col de Petit Saint-Bernard, heading into town at Bourg Saint-Maurice. The riders are desperate. There's a 4 chasing 4, split by about 12 seconds. And then we've got the Contador Armstrong Wiggins group at 1 minute 16. They've closed over half a minute on the descent, and there's still enough time for them to bridge the gap here.
Team Astana this afternoon, I think, played a very good tactical game. They allowed everybody to throw the attacks at them. They defended perfectly, and they've pulled this race all back together, which sets us up again for another big show of fireworks tomorrow.
We're getting to the very tortuous section of the descent. These hairpin bends come really fast and furious just before we get into town. It's as if they sort of ran out of road when they built the town, and they've got to get down pretty quick towards the bottom.
Well, there's the leading group of 4, and there's a skill involved in going down hills extremely fast. So you don't just let the brakes go and go downhill as fast as you can. You've actually got to control your speed into the corners, and that's what a lot of these riders tend to overdo sometimes. And you have to be careful not to overheat the rims, because if you start using the brakes too much on a long descent like this, you actually heat up the rims, and that can create your tyres to explode.
That's absolutely right, and the peloton is flying down this mountain.
It's not actually the peloton, it's Dave Zabriskie of Garmin Slipstream. He's doing all of the work on the front end of this group. 100% of the work is being done by Dave Zabriskie, and the reason for that, Phil, is to open up the gap between the riders who have missed on the split this afternoon. They don't want to waste any of the time gains that they got on the mountain, and they want to make sure that if they're going to put a nail into Cadel Evans' coffin, it's here on the descent that they do it.
I think Zabriskie is in his familiar position of an individual time trialist here, silver medalist in the World Championship of the time trial. He is pushing this race on unbelievably quickly, and coming in on that second chasing group of 4. They're not safe. They will know they're coming.
You may well just have noticed Mikel Astrolosa there, Phil, shaking his hands. Well, this descent has been so long, and it's not something riders do an awful lot in the sport of cycling. They don't go downhill for almost 30 minutes, which is what these guys have been doing. And it actually starts to make the forearms hurt because of the amount of braking you've had to do going around these technical descents.
Absolutely, and the back will be aching now as well in this full-on position. And the concentration, it really makes you tired, physically and also mentally. They've got to concentrate as they continue, but 4 more. Stefan Goubert, Nicolas Roche, Sandy Cassar, Pierrick Fedrigo are now nibbling away just behind our camera, but they can't shut it down as we continue our descent. There's another 5 kilometers of it yet.
There's the 4 on the front there. You can see Franco Pelazzotti is just thinking about the possibility of the big win here this afternoon. Moinard is the man in the red shorts, followed by Vandenbroek, followed by Astrolosa. Pelazzotti must be dreaming now. He's had a dream day anyway, Phil, because he got himself a lot of points in the King of the Mountains classification. But now, to cap it all, he would be extremely happy to walk away with the victory. That is 5 seconds, the difference between those two groups. And the yellow jersey group now is within a minute.
5 kilometres to go for the 4 leaders. It is far from certain with 4 chases at 5 seconds, and the Dave Zabriskie, Bradley Wiggins bunch behind are now down to 59 seconds as they literally fly off this mountain quicker than anybody else. The losers today have to be Cadel Evans and Carlos Sastre.
Well, there you can see the front end of the race. The main field, the yellow jersey group, Zabriskie, Armstrong, Alberto Contador, they are not going to see these 8 riders. But the question is, will they get together before the finishing line? They're still separated by a mere 5 seconds. I would expect the group to come back very shortly, and then we'll have an 8-man sprint.
These are the 4 leaders. The gap to the peloton, yellow jersey, 58 seconds now. They're sprinting out of that corner. They know that these 4 are almost on them. This is a real pursuit. It's like a team pursuit on the track. 4 chasing 4 riders here. There's about, what, a kilometre of flattish road to the line. That's it. So we've still got over 3 kilometres of descending.
And it is hard, Phil, to close a 5-second gap when both groups are going downhill at 60 kilometres an hour. Cadel Evans has really lost out this afternoon. The time gap is coming through now. That Evans is at 3 minutes and 47 seconds to the lead. But more importantly, Phil, he's 2 minutes 47 seconds behind the yellow jersey group.
Well, that's absolutely right, and that will not be recountable tomorrow. And Sastre, we believe, is with the Cadel Evans group, but we don't know for sure. There's a bottle gone off over the side here now as this group continues. The kilometres are flying off the screen now. 3.4 left to right. There they come. This is the real charge now. There'll be 8 riders with 2 kilometres to go. Then the shadow boxing will start while the yellow jersey group will continue to come down.
Well, it's 6 seconds, the official time gap. 56 seconds to the yellow jersey group. Now they're starting to slow. They're getting onto the flatter part of the course. That will give the advantage to these 4 chasers. Sandy Cassar is in there. He'll be looking for a victory to add to the victory he had a little while ago.
Nicholas Roach will be in there too for all of Ireland today, as Moyard knows they're coming. He's time to have a little dig at 2.9 kilometres. Quickly onto him, Jurgen van den Broek. They split the chase group. The 4 chasers behind will see this. It might put them into a little bit of disarray just for the moment. Moyard hasn't worked. We'll slam those brakes on as we're running off the mountain now. Bunny hopping over the roundabout into town, and there's only 2.7 kilometres to go. A blink of the eyelid and the 4 guys are nearly on.
They're just about there. That little move by Moyard will take the impetus out of this leading group of 4, and that will give the chance to the 4 chasers to quite possibly nail back that final few seconds. Coming up to the front now, Jurgen van den Broek. There's another move gone over the top. Astrolosa, he's a clever rider.
Astrolosa saw them and he'd gone. He went off our camera as well at 2 kilometres to go. Astrolosa drives for home. He had the most to gain. He was highest placed, but Dave Zabriskie's got rid of all that time gain. He's only 57 seconds behind now. But Astrolosa wants the stage with Euskaltel Euskadi, and he's got an impressionable gap now.
And he's gone around those corners and not lost any of his impetus at all. He's an experienced pro. Phil, remember what we've said so many times about this guy. He's never crossed the line in first place. He won the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under in the overall classification. He's never had the possibility in his professional career of putting his arms in the air.
57 seconds is the gap to the yellow jersey group as Mikel Astrolosa now tries to push home, having won the Tour Down Under, and that's it. He's now into town. Look at this crowd. We should have come back before 1939. It's an incredible crowd here as we race under 1 kilometre to go. They were preoccupied about the back 4, and Mikel Astrolosa has flown, and look at his face now. Don't look round, Mikel, because you're the race right now.
He has got to concentrate. He's got to get every last little bit of energy out of that body of his. Who is going to chase? The problem in that group behind, Phil, they've come together and they're all thinking about the sprint. They don't want to do too much work, because if you work too much now, you lose the sprint. Astrolosa looks over his shoulder. He's got to keep going now. You're almost willing on this man from the orange jersey, Euskaltel Euskadi, to get the victory here this afternoon.
At last, as he comes into the finishing straight here now, Mikel Astrolosa, a little bit of a speed wobble there. It's a tight bend this. He goes through a very, very tight chicane as they approach the line, and then he'll come up to the finish here. as Mikel Astalosa now has got something he's never done before, and that's first place in a road race, and he's chosen the Tour de France and stage 16 over the mountains from Switzerland through Italy into France, and he's got the victory. He can't believe it. Yes, I don't believe it, but doesn't believe it himself here, Paul. He's finally won a stage of the Tour. Second place sprint is going to be Fedrigo or Sandy Cassar?
Well, it may be Sandy Cassar because he seems to enjoy second places on stages of the Tour. I think that if he's second, that will be his 6th second place on a stage race, stage of the Tour de France. Well, this is the big group now with Lance Armstrong, Alberto Contador. It's still Dave Zabriskie on the front end of the main field. They're sprinting here for a long way down, maybe 9th place.
But that doesn't matter now. The fact is they've said today Astalosa's gained only a few seconds. It's nothing. It's not, doesn't matter.
Carlos Sastra's in that group.
Paul just spotted Carlos Sastra was here, so it seems the only loser of the day is Cadel Evans. He must have got back on the descent. We haven't been able to put a camera in there since. All of the Astana team are coming in. Look at this, the yellow jerseys even going with the breakaway. Just to remind them, now that's what a champion does. He's even taking on Christophe Moreau in the sprint as they come up towards. He's actually trying to win this sprint. He comes over the line behind Christophe Moreau. And that is a very, very good result. And hats off to Dave Zabriskie today, and Bradley Wiggins as well.
And Lance Armstrong, who made an incredible comeback. But there's the winner. What joy for this team.
A career's worth of pent-up celebration pouring out of Mikel Astalosa, leaving 7 men behind to dispute the minor placings with a perfectly timed attack off the front. There's the result. Astalosa, Sandy Cassar second for the 6th time in his Tour de France career, and Pierrick Fedrigo third. Nico Roach with another good ride on his Tour debut 4th. Franco Pellizotti, more interested in the mountain points, came in 7th. 59 seconds later came the yellow jersey group, with the yellow jersey well to the fore. Bradley Wiggins in it, of course, Lance Armstrong after his ride across the gap, and Carlos Sastre pulling his way back in too. So what would have been a giant day's climbing for Bradley Wiggins a year ago, now nothing but a routine stage.
No, I felt fine. Felt it was one of the easier alpine stages, so just yeah, just not tomorrow's another day really. Yeah, I don't want to get too carried away with it.
An out of category in a Cat 1 is one of the easier alpine stages.
No, I mean in terms of the pattern of the race, you know, Astana controlled it pretty well most of the day, and then obviously Andy attacked again on the final climb. But other than that, it wasn't too much. Tomorrow was a bit more of a brothel. But
you knew the Schlecks were going to be lively. They'll probably be lively again tomorrow. Rumour has it they've got something planned.
Yeah. I mean they're lively, but there's only one of them who's sort of, what's the word? I don't know really. Yeah, they'll be lively.
There's one that you've got to follow more than the other, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I mean, when Andy puts it down, there's only 3 or 4 of us that are really there. I mean, Frank got dropped today, so...
For a while it looked like you might be second on the road as well when Lance was behind you.
Yeah, but there's plenty of time for that to come, you know. We're just trying to get too panicky and too carried away when it's like that, really. If you feel good, it's easy to do silly things and just keep it in control, really. So,
Good luck tomorrow, Brad.
Okay.
Cadel Evans, though, will need more than luck. He drove home at the front of a small group, trying to limit his losses, but they were substantial. 3 minutes 55 to the winner, and nearly 3 minutes to his rivals, although, as Evans himself admits, they're no longer really rivals.
I'm out of it. Out of the race. For the podium, at least, or a place that's worthy of.
Yeah, any idea? I mean, are you feeling okay, or what's been happening?
Basically, everything fine, but for professional reasons, I can't comment on the problems I've been having.
No problems for Mark Cavendish. Another day in the mountains chalked off on the way to Paris. And for Alberto Contador, another day closer to repeating this scene on the Champs-Élysées. Attacked today, but never put under pressure.